I think, I mean, you know, when you talk about sort of pushing potential, I mean, really, or pushing people in order to kind of see how far they can go. I've used, I think it's the opening scenes from kind of Lone Survivor, which was sort of based around or took clips from a documentary on the US Navy SEALs training. And there's a lot of things in there that I think really kind of resonate and are kind of really kind of helpful ideas. If you think about kind of what they're going through, the sort of training, it's pushing themselves to a limit. It's pushing themselves to a point where they are on the cusp or kind of moving into the sort of early stages of hypothermia. To understand A, what it feels like, but B, kind of, you can go this far. You can be incredibly uncomfortable, cold, wet, hungry. Frankly, you can push yourself to those absolute extreme limits. And it's designed, I guess, to develop a sort of sense of confidence in the individual that makes them sort of realize that, look, you know, no matter how bad it gets, it can always be worse. And how do you know that? Because you've been to a place where it's been worse. And I think that, you know, a lot of people, I find myself talking to a lot of people kind of about resilience and those sort of things. And I think one of the challenges is that people want to be resilient. They want that skill. They want to be able to handle pressure, but they don't want to pay the price. The price or the conditions required to create a form of resilience require you to be uncomfortable, require you to be in some form of sort of physical discomfort or dare I say it, pain, in order to realize that actually, do you know what, I can deal with this. Can I deal with 5% more? Can I deal with sort of 10% more? Yes, I can. And I think it's only by kind of discovering or sort of pushing those kind of boundaries that you sort of realize the person you are and also where your limits are. You ask people, certainly that you kind of work with on a daily basis, when was the last time you genuinely felt hungry? And most of them will say, well, you know, I was quite hungry kind of yesterday, just before lunch. I'm like, no. Really hungry, famished hungry, whereby you would eat something that you don't like the flavor of, purely because you know it's going to take this pain and discomfort and this kind of absolutely horrific feeling away that you've got in the pit of your stomach. Oh, right, okay. Well, very rarely, possibly maybe even never. And you realize like that's a condition that people live in every single day. You know, forget like having choices around kind of what you eat. You know, if you're hungry enough, you'll eat anything. And this is something that I'm not, it sounds like I can be sort of kind of quite harsh, but my sort of view is it's okay to be a little bit uncomfortable. So my wife, and, you know, I was thinking about this the other day, my wife will always be sort of going, oh, my daughter Charlotte, she won't wear a coat. She won't wear a coat. And I'm like, okay, fine. Let her not wear a coat. And the way I do it with her is go, right, you have a decision. You have the responsibility to make this call. So here it is. You don't have to wear this coat now. However, you can't wear it until we get a mile away from the house. So you now have to make a call. Do you want to put it on now and see how warm it is outside? Or do you want to not wear it, but at which point you can't wear it for a mile? Now, it can get quite cold in the UK. It can get a bit wet. But I'm like, it's okay for her to feel the cold, the discomfort. You know, that's okay because it stimulates a change, or it stimulates a different way of thinking whereby, do you know what, maybe when it's snowing outside and my dad says put on a coat, that might be a good idea. You know, but it's giving her the ownership of kind of making the call. And I think being cold, being hungry, being a bit wet from time to time, there's no harm in that. There's nothing wrong with it. I think if anything, it's kind of helpful. Some people will probably go, oh, that's just ridiculous. That's a really extreme, you know, that's like, you know, some form of abuse. I'm like, I would argue it isn't. I would argue that actually it's almost a form of abuse to give a child everything that they ever wanted. To give them whatever they feel like they're eating, to give them sweets whenever they want it so that they damage their teeth and put on weight. I think that, again, it's helpful to understand this concept of hurt versus harm. So, for example, exercise hurts, but it's good for you. The chocolate bar doesn't hurt. It feels good, but it harms you. And when you're thinking about your sort of life philosophy, do you have a grasp of those two concepts? Because frankly, you just can't live your life in a permanent state of comfort. And if you try and do that, actually, you'll just find yourself being numb the whole time. You know, it's part of the human experience to experience some form of discomfort. And I think this is one thing that the military does really well, is that you experience it frequently enough to remember that actually, do you know what, if I've just got a roof over my head, I've kind of got everything I need. But equally, it's a world in which you live high highs and you find yourself in great environment, like on the beach in the Seychelles, you know, with a can of cold beer in your hand, or on the front line in Afghanistan, having never slept. And it's those kind of two really extremes that I kind of enjoyed, because I never wanted to be kind of numb. I never wanted to drift through life, complaining about the weather or, you know, or just the trivia and minutiae. I went to a meeting in Manchester yesterday, client meeting, relatively new clients, talk about some work that we're going to do. And on my way to the meeting, it was raining. A bus hit a pothole. And I'm not joking, I got covered in shit, brown, excuse my language, crappy brown water. And I was like, oh my God, that's irritating. And it was one of those things where I was like, well, do you know what? If that's the worst thing that happens to me today or this week, it's a pretty good week. And the ability or the pace at which you can flip that way of thinking and go, that sucks. But you know what? That guy over there who's huddled underneath a group of boxes in a sleeping bag, his daily experience is a hell of a lot worse than mine. And the faster that you can kind of contextualize it to the sort of broader human experience and kind of just smile at it, you know, and go, oh, this is ridiculous, but sort of almost not take pity on yourself and not reflect, you know, not think about it for too long. Actually, just bottom line, the happier you will be, because you'll be able to skate above those kind of incidences and not worry about them too much. And at the end of the day, you go into a client meeting and someone doesn't choose to work with you because of an incident like that, or because you've got kind of mud on the color of your shirt where a bus has hit a pothole and splashed you in a load of crap, well then that wasn't a relationship worth pursuing anyway. So